Well, joining us on the program right now is Jeff Parker. He's your Chief Executive Officer, and today we're going to give you some COVID numbers regarding how we did for the week. The city of Laguna Woods actually is still doing pretty well, but unfortunately, we're seeing that death rate kind of go up a little bit in Orange County.
Thanks, Paul. And good morning to everybody. Yeah, the great news for us is that, again, the residents here have done such a good job that we're still at in fact, if you look at the cases reported, because of some adjustments, we went actually down from 50 to 49 cases. So that's kind of unique in the recording. And I think it had to do with just how Orange County was reporting all of the cases.
Right.
The good news is that our deaths have stayed the same over the week. And yet in Orange County itself, we've seen a pretty big jump in the numbers. Went from 980 last week to over 1,000.
Over 1,000 right now.
And 11 yesterday recorded as well. Yeah. So that's sad and unfortunate that we're seeing that. As we talk about it, there's a new website, in a sense, an upgraded, and they're following now the state's allocation of going to a color-coded tier concept. And if you go to the details on the right, what you'll find is for a county to move one step at a time, they have to be in these tiers and have to be approved for a couple weeks with a status quo and not seeing any increase. Then they can move to the next level. They can't jump like 3 levels just because they're doing really good, so they're going to have to sequentially go through it. We're still at the county's still been designated in Tier 1. However, the numbers are still pretty good at the 5.6 and the 5% positivity rate. If we continue to hold steady with that, I think the next step will be going into that Tier 2. Right. But they have to stay in Tier 1 for a couple weeks before they can go into Tier 2. Right. So that's good news. They also are starting to, they announced that they're starting to allow some in-class educational stuff starting. A lot of them look like they were starting around the 3rd week of September. Right. And so that's good news, and I think that's reflective of these numbers going down. That 5% positivity percentage has always been kind of the goal. We've got to get to that, maintain it, and that gives you the flexibility to start opening up things. Right.
So we're really on the verge of purple and red here, and like you said, even when we get to that red threshold, there's usually like a 21-day holding period to make sure that you can, maintain those levels. Right. And then hopefully, you're still talking October, mid-October, maybe even November before we get into a Tier 3 situation.
Probably correct.
Especially with, we have Labor Day weekend, and then we have flu season. Flu season's going to come whether COVID's here or not. Right.
And that's the one thing that you keep hearing about in the state and Orange County, and everybody's recommending, especially for people that have preconditions or people in the age group that most of us are here at the village, and that is get your flu shots and don't wait to get them, because they're saying that the potential onslaught of the flu is going to be earlier. Right. So their recommendation is if you can go get your flu shot, go get your flu shot. You can always get a booster later, but the most important thing is not to wait too long and get hit with the flu, which just makes it more difficult to fight off the COVID-19 if you happen to get impacted by that too. Yeah.
And just, probably a month and a half ago was kind of a little bit of an uproar regarding, this policy wearing masks in our community. And I think now that we reflect back, we realize that was really probably one of the other better moves that we've made in our community, because it's kept our numbers so low. And now people, whether you're at the Liso Creek walking or at the concert or gatherings there that they're doing hopefully with social distancing, and we're checking that out. But obviously the mask has really helped in our community. And I think people are just adapted to it. It's just like anything else you do nowadays, you're going to wear that mask when you're out in public like that.
I think you're right. I think the great participation by our residents to social distance and wearing the mask, and we, keeping the group smaller than 15, so that it's great that some people can get together or go over to the park and hang out together. That we're not wanting you to not do that. Right. That's what we want you to do. Get outside and enjoy, but just do it in a limited capacity. Keep it under 15. Same thing with our classes that we're going to start. We're going to start next week looking at specific adding additional outside classes that we're going to have, so people can do Tai Chi or a yoga class outside. And we're working with the recreation department right now to get the scheduling and everything for that, and I'll talk about that on next time I see you.
Great.
But the key to that too is still, 14 people in the class with the instructor, keep it to 15 so that we can make sure that social distancing is occurring and we're not impacting that spread.
That's a great idea. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be looking forward to that, just to get together and do it properly, but yet get some exercise and get outside. And then the new reservation app basically is working out pretty well.
Yeah, we had one little glitch the other day, but it's for the people that are giving input to us on how it can effectively get your reservation, how it allows you to get a reservation further in advance. Before it was like a one-day call up on the email. Now you can get 72 hours in advance, so it allows you to go in there and get your court that people want, over a period of time. And what that's done is it's spread out all the reservations and calls. Now what we did, and one of the reasons we had a glitch, I think, is we opened up the pools, and we're going to use the same reservation system for the pools, and we got hit with, I think, a lot of calls and reservations, so we had a little glitch. It was only out for just a couple hours, and then we're back up. So it is, from what we understand and how people are using it, is more effective and useful in getting your reservation and getting your time slotted for your use for either tennis court, pickleball, and now the pools.
And just like any app we've seen for the last 10 years, once they launch it, and then everybody hits it at once. I mean, Ticketmaster, how many times have concert apps gone down just because everybody wants to get the latest tickets for a concert they want to see? But those are some of the things that happen with technology, and then obviously we learn from that and then make it a better app. So
absolutely.
Great news. This is also the end of budget season. GRF wrapped up their budget. You want to mention some of that?
Sure. So we're literally right in the middle of the budget process. So we have, GRF was last Tuesday, and now we run into United coming up on Tuesday, and then the following week will be Third adopting their resolutions, approving their budgets. With that, GRF was first to go. And what I wanted to mention for everybody watching, because GRF is over the facilities, as we know, and so their assessment this year is at $205. And I wanted to mention the key to that and $205.60 is that's the same assessment as in 2020. So this is the 2021 year we're talking about, starting in January.
Right.
As we know, we're way in advance in our budgeting process because we have to get that information out in November and December to all our residents. The nice thing, obviously, for our residents to know that their assessments aren't going up.
Right.
That's not necessarily normal, but they did it for two specific reasons. One, when we originally were showing GRF what we thought the normal increase was going to be, it was in that $8 to $10 range. And what we suggested to them was, because there was going to be literally some savings this year in 2020 because we had shut down some facilities and we had gone into a different operation mode, that there was projected revenue savings at the end of the year. And as their bylaws suggest, and as we go through the process, the way in which they can take that money and offset those things is to put that money back in their contingency or reserve budgets. Right. And so what we were able to do was not increase those, in fact, reduce those. So our contribution to the contingency fund went down $5.
Okay.
And the contribution to the reserve fund allowed it to stay identical instead of going up $5 or $6. So the end result of having a zero net increase for our residents is like receiving that rebate that some of them had wondered about or questioned about.
Yeah.
So real positive for GRF being able to do that. United's proposed budget is also a zero increase with regards to the base assessment. Doesn't directly involve the insurance issue. With regards to the GRF budget, we noted that there was going to be a big increase in insurance, and we've been talking to everybody about that. Yeah. And this, again, using this surplus addresses that
for next year.
That potential for next year as far as any kind of insurance for GRF. So a really tight budget, but accomplish what I think GRF really wanted to do, which was assure the residents that they were using any surplus appropriately by keeping and maintaining a zero assessment increase.
Right, and just like you said, by utilizing that appropriately, because as we've seen in the Globe for the last 3 or 4 weeks, there's always been a letter to the editor stating, you know, give us our discount on our assessment this year. Well, legally, you can't even do that.
Right.
So what you're doing is just budgeting that for next year,
Right.
so that they actually have a savings or a zero balance on that account.
Exactly.
Very good. And we also want to congratulate Joan Milliman. She was elected to the Golden Rain Foundation Board, and she was one of 6 candidates for that one seat. And then they'll start that process again here in the next month or so.
Yeah, pretty soon. And both United and Third have their process. Third is by acclamation, looks like. That would be based on theirs. And United will have 7 candidates for 4 positions, I believe it is.
And when you say acclamation, that's also a new bill that was approved, I believe, in Sacramento too, that you went up and supported too, because we were spending all this money for ballots and notices and things like that, and yet there were 4 seats, 4 candidates, and yet we are still sending out all this information, which is, you know, very expensive at times.
Right. The elections cost somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000 per mutual if they have an election, and if we can do an election by acclamation, it saves that a big part of that cost.
Right.
The notification is still important, that we notify people and put notices out there that it is going to be by acclamation, so people understand that. But yes, that's the reason we sponsored that bill last year and got it passed, and this is the first election that will come under those regulations.
And we actually got that notice yesterday from Cheryl Silva. She works in your office, and you'll see those notices on the message board, and it'll show you who the candidates are and how this process is working. So that's, you know, another way to get that information. So, you have anything else you want to share with us before we let you go for this Labor Day weekend?
Everybody look forward to a great Labor Day. Stay safe out there, wear your mask, and it's going to be warm. We all know that, and you indicated that, so stay safe, stay inside, or get out to the beach. It's probably the best place to go. Early, early or late, as they say.
Right,
Don't go when all the crowds are,
Right.
but enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk to you, and maybe on Wednesday. We'll do a Wednesday instead of a since Monday we're not going to be here.
That's right. We look forward to that. Matter of fact, we won't have a show on Monday as well. That's our Labor Day, and we will be off on this, a national holiday, thanks to Grover Cleveland, our president back in like 1800s, who knows when. But yeah, we will have a holiday here for Labor Day on Monday. But thank you so much for joining us this week, and enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next week sometime.
Sounds great. Thanks, Paul.
That's Jeff Parker. He's our Chief Executive Officer, and each week he gives us an update on not only the COVID numbers, but many of the things happening in your community. We're going to be back with Lisa and some lease hacks right after this.